Welcome to the Notorious Scoundrels, a Star Wars Legion podcast bringing you the latest news, general perspective, and competitive discussion.
Hello and welcome back to the Notorious Scoundrels podcast. I'm Kyle. I'm here with Jay and Lucas. What's up, gentlemen?
I'm a robot today.
Yeah, Lucas all the way from Germany. Not the best of connections, so just audio today. But don't worry, there is a stand-in, Lucas.
Yeah. For those of you watching the
purposes.
YouTube channel, you see what's happening right now.
Wow, I'm so handsome, even in digital form.
Yeah, buddy, you're the handsomest.
So, as much as I would like to talk about how handsome Lucas is, we do have a lot to talk about today.
Yeah.
People have been getting Battle Force boxes that contain some things and not other things.
Yep.
So we'll talk about that. We got some previews for both Din Djarin and IG, both IGs, 11 and 88. We're going to see how we're doing on time, but our intent is to also talk about those. So maybe not in exquisite detail, but nonetheless, we'll see how much we get to. But before we do any of that, do you have any housekeeping for us, Jay?
Yeah, so let's see. We've got, of course, join us on Patreon. We're going to be giving away Battle Force cards at the $10 and $25 level. I'm also going to start doing errata cards for you guys as well at those levels. You get you get the After Dark podcast, which we've got one. I think Evan and I are going to be recording one this week. We're starting our fifth tile podcast here, and so we're gonna record a After Dark podcast while I have Evan here in the studio. So that'll be fun, and you get all kinds of other cool stuff. We're going to be doing order tokens for the $25 level folks, and we've got a ton of cool stuff planned for you guys. So go over, sign up for our Patreon. It really helps us out, with all the writing and the blog and paying everybody. So go join us there. More content to come, and that'll be good. We've got we got the Q&A. I think we were supposed to do this week, but I'm going to push it to next week because I don't think any of us are ready for that. And and then we have our tactics, 5-minute tactics, which we're going to put one out here this month. And so tons of cool content coming your way on the Patreon. We released some new order tokens. If you haven't seen, we've got the Hunter edition of the order tokens. That kind of match all the new hunters that are going to be in the game coming here soon. So you could check those out. We also have the Battle Force order tokens back in stock and ready to order, so you can order more of those if you're interested in that. I think that's for the most part, that's it. I think I'm gonna put this in housekeeping because we're actually kind of a big part of it now. So the PAX Unplugged event, we're sponsoring that. So if you haven't had a chance, go check out PAX Unplugged. That's gonna be the first weekend in December. It's gonna be a huge event. Ticket vouchers for plane tickets to get to Adepticon, where there'll be a last chance qualifier for Worlds if you don't have your Worlds ticket, or if you have your Worlds ticket and you want a plane ride there, you could get that at PAX. There's gonna be a ton of giveaways. We're gonna be giving away a ton of stuff, and I know a bunch of other people like 6UP Supplies and stuff like that are gonna be giving away a ton of stuff. Nick Robnar's running that, so the tables are gonna be amazing. So check that out. So yeah, that's it for housekeeping.
Awesome. What about news?
Yeah, so I'm going to start with an easy one. I was asked to mention that the Polish National Championships are coming up. They have 74 people have their tickets. They reached the cap that they had in a little over 24 hours. They're going to play 7 rounds of Swiss. They're going to do MOV. And they're looking to have one undefeated player. That's how they're going to be running it. They have a huge local scene that they say a bi-monthly event where they have 40 players, and they just recently reached 50 players in their bi-monthly events. And according to TTO, they wanted me to tell everybody that they have the third largest scene in Europe. So, Lucas, if you get a chance to hop a train over to Poland, they've got a pretty big scene, dude. So, once you've made it to the top of the German national scene, you can head on over to Poland and try to take them down too. Okay.
Yeah, I actually got to meet some of the Polish players at M Norden, so they seem like good people, and eventually want to make it out there.
Great. So that was that was the easy part of the news. All right, so this next section is going to where I'm going to just basically do it as a news item, and then we're going to deep dive right after it. So, as Kyle alluded to in the beginning of the podcast, the battle forces are starting to make their way out into the public. Now, in the US, we only have the 501st and the droids one available. The other two are the end of the month. So those Echo Base and Blizzard Force are not going to be available till the end of the month, but 501st and what's the droid one called? The
Separatist Invasion Force.
Separatist Invasion Force, yeah. Those are available in the wild, but there's also Blizzard Force or Echo Base is available in Canada and Australia, I want to say. And so we've seen some of those in the wild as well. And really the news is they are slightly disappointing. And the reason is missing components, misprinted cards. We're going to get into the list. I'm just facts here. I'm just giving the facts during the news section. Missing components like flight stands for the 501st for the ARC Troopers, misprints on the ARC Trooper weapon upgrade card, heavy weapon upgrade card, misprint on the ATRT heavy weapon upgrade card. There is some Grievous cards that have a misprint, but I think they're specific country versions.
The German one.
A German one, because I've seen some English ones that are fine. And not enough tokens, or the tokens are misprinted, or they're not in there. So it seems like a lot of issues with the some don't have instructions, some do have instructions, and that's facts that we have right now. We're about to list some other stuff. Some of it's rumor, and so we will get to that during this next part, which is our op-ed section of this conversation. But the facts are the facts. So let's deep dive, Kyle.
I mean, it's, I don't even know where to start. So why don't we go through the full list? Maybe that's the best place to start. Should we go through just an exhaustive list here?
Yep.
And I want to actually start with the battle forces, but I think we could probably take this discussion beyond the battle forces, because frankly, the battle forces are kind of just a continuance of a trend that we've seen starting with the very first AMG release, which was the Shadow Collective starter.
I don't think you even need to start with battle forces. Let's okay, so let's take it up.
You want to do it chronologically?
Yeah. So what we're saying here and what we're pointing out, and we're going to tell you the facts, and then we're going to give you our opinions on this. And I think that most of you, and I'll have my call to action after this, but most of you aren't very, I think a lot of us are like, oh yeah, well, I got this card here, and it's okay. It's not okay. We need to come to terms with everything that they have put out has been messed up in some way, and we need to say enough is enough. And that's why we're doing this, and we're going to start at the top, and we're going to talk about everything that's been wrong and why it's a problem. So go ahead, Kyle. You could start at the chronologically at the top of the list if you want.
All right. So the first one was the Shadow Collective starter. There was, going back to you're going to notice a trend here with cardboard tokens and then printed cards. So the Shadow Collective starter had the wrong quantity and number, and also like faction of the order tokens. Particularly, I think the operative tokens, there were some like off faction tokens that didn't make a lot of sense. The shield tokens for the Mandos were double-sided, which is kind of a problem because it's flippable. Like,
So just so if you don't know, shield tokens, it's on and off basically. Like
Right.
your shield is active, your shield's not active. So if both sides are active, well, I can't indicate that it's not active anymore, can I?
right. So basically, like, I've seen people that like colored in permanent marker on one side of the shield token. I guess you could do that. It's better than not having them, which we'll get to. In the card back, there was the smoke grenades were misprinted. Saxon was missing his shield card entirely. They posted a print and play for that. We gave those out for free. Of course, people know about that. Swoops had the crit to block on the thing, which became kind of a meme because it's so obviously wrong. But we'll get into when misprints are not so obvious, how that can be substantially worse. And of course, the base was not consistent with the marketing material and the bases that we're seeing on stream that they used in their live game with the swoops. On the picture of the box, everything basically it was the speeder bike sized base that was in the box, but every picture we saw of swoops and the swoops that we saw them use on stream had the ATRT sized base.
Yep. Also, because I don't see it on our list here, the wrong tokens in the cardboard they had like suppression tokens in there.
Oh yeah, for the swoops.
Can't go on swoops.
And standby,
and standby.
And standbys. And the wrong number of like wound tokens too. I think it was like an insufficient number of wound tokens.
Yep. In addition, now this, I'm not calling, there's going to be some things we're going to say in here that don't seem like mistakes, and I'm going to explain to you why they are. There was no other cards in the swoop bike. It was just the unit card. Not a single unit in this game has come out without upgrade cards that match the upgrades that the unit can take, even if they're reprints of something you already have. But this should have had HQ uplink, comms jammer,
transponder, which is a new one that most people don't have a lot of.
Transponder, any of those, anything, link targeting array, like things that are specifically built for that unit. There was no upgrade cards, not a single one.
I mean, if they're gonna like move to a model of selling like neutral upgrade card packs, that I have slightly less of a problem with, but I do agree that especially for new players that are trying to build out their card collection, I can see that being annoying. It's not, I think that's a slightly different category than just like straight up misprints or like missing tokens that you need to play the game. But
I'm
go
just
ahead, Lucas. Sorry,
go ahead.
I think I was just going to add that in the upgrade card pack, the second one, it comes with weird order tokens. You get 3 Shadow Collective operative tokens when Boba isn't playable Shadow Collective, and you get 1 Empire operative token for Cad Bang, sees all Empire, but no separatist one. That's kind of a smaller one, but a similar thing, right? Where the token to what comes.
Yeah.
So did I miss anything on the non-Battle Force stuff?
No, I think that's it.
All right, so Battle Forces. And now this is, as Jay noted, this is mostly just the so far the 501st and the Droid Invasion Battle Force boxes. Since we're not getting the other ones here in the US, we don't have as good of information on those. So Grievous in some languages has crit to block, again with the crit to block on his reminder text for block instead of surge to block. The 501st box does not have enough flight stands for the flying arc models that are in it, which, if you're like a veteran player that has a bunch of expansions, the old boxes came with extra flight stands because they came with options for you to put them at different heights. So you might have extras from those if you're like a veteran player, but if you're a new player, and my understanding is that these Battle Force boxes are, at least somewhat targeted towards new players that are trying to build out their collection, you're not going to have enough flight stands. I saw somebody on Reddit that had like, they took all the little circles, plastic circles from the flight stand sprues and like stacked them on top of each other to make like sort of a jury-rigged flight stand, but of course it looked kind of funny.
Yeah.
Um,
It's just, don't worry, AMG, I got it.
yeah, fixed it.
Uh,
The there were not enough vehicle damage tokens, and by that I mean there's 3 different results for vehicle damage, right? There was only one of them, one token that was in the token card packs, or not card packs, whatever you want, the token sheets. Seems like kind of an issue. There was not enough order tokens, like period, just like straight up not enough order tokens. Ones of different weird ranks that didn't make sense. The droid box did not have any shield tokens for the droidicas. And even if you're like a veteran, the shield tokens are not something that's super common. Historically, the older boxes come with exactly enough shield tokens for whatever units have shields. The older expansions generally come with what you need to run those units, but not much more than that, with the exception of things like suppression tokens or whatever. But like if you got a box of droidicas, they would have 4 shield tokens in it, which is what you need for 1 unit of droidicas. If you got a box of mandos, there'd be 1 shield token in there, which is what you need. Iden has a shield token in it. So even veteran players probably don't have a lot of extra shield tokens unless they previously bought droidicas, and then they don't need this expansion anyway. And then there were some misprints besides the Grievous one. These ones are, in my opinion, extremely consequential because these were dice misprints. So the DC-15, the ARC DC-15 has 2 red on it instead of red black.
mm-hmm.
They did remove critical one, so it seems to be updated from the the balance pass that occurred last year.
Yep.
And then the ATRT laser has 3 black instead of red, black, black. And I think with some justification, people were like, well, is this a buff to the DC-15? Maybe ARCs needed a little something. And people will be asking this question a lot. I think the answer is no, because clearly they also wanted to, document. There's been no errata document. Clearly, they also wanted to nerf the rampaging meta dominator that is the RT laser dice. And given all the other mistakes and misprints in these, it's not like it's hard to read any intent into the fact that these dice are different. But yeah,
I think it's remembering too that this product is geared for new players. So the tough part, right, is we know these dice by heart. It might not look, but right. I think it's especially an issue considering these are supposed to be starter kits. When I first started, I looked at what was on the cards. I didn't have every dice pool in the game memorized.
Yeah. So let me give you guys an example, right? Since we're getting into this, this is why this is a problem. You're a new player. I get most of you who are listening to us right now are veterans, right? But if you're a new player or you want to get your friend into it and you say, hey, yeah, go get one of these special Battle Force boxes. It's everything you need to start today, right? Then it turns out it's not everything you need to start. You're missing a ton of stuff. You're missing all these tokens. Then on top of it, let's say you go to a local tournament, or even how many people have we met at larger tournaments like Nova, Gen Con, where they're like, hey, this is my first tournament. I've only played 3 games. I'm really excited about this. And they bring cards that are clearly misprinted, and they're like, okay, I've got my arc sniper, he's gonna roll 2 red, and you're like, they don't roll 2 red, and he's like, yeah, they did. Look, it's right here on the card. And then you have to call a judge over. The judge has to explain to him that those cards are misprinted, and now everything he knows or they know about coming in is those units. It's a feels bad, and I don't know if that player's gonna there's a chance that they don't continue playing, because of the bad experience of that. Because that could cause some real headaches in a game.
It's also a little bit of a trust thing, right?
Yeah.
Insofar as in these cases, we have old cards and or errated versions of these cards to compare them to. So we know that they're not correct, which is its own thing. I don't know why you wouldn't just, maybe they don't have the old card images. I don't know. Maybe they lost that in the transfer.
Yeah.
I don't know why you wouldn't compare them to the old card images when you're doing QC on these. But how do we know that the new stuff is correct? Because we don't have anything to compare the new stuff to.
You're right.
You know, and things like dice color matter significantly for
Yeah.
balance and how strong a unit is. And this is not an obvious misprint like crit to block. This
Right.
is this is just a dice color. It's a very innocuous thing that has an extremely significant impact on the effectiveness of a unit.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but wait, there's more.
Yep.
Let's see. This was discussed previously, but the flamethrower misprint on Dinjarin
Yep.
being expend. The build instructions. So some of the boxes don't have them. Now they did make some available online. I think my favorite one here is the ATRT build instructions. I don't know how to describe them other than there's like 3 pictures. There's no arrows in the pictures. They just display the components.
Yep.
We just lost Lucas.
Yeah.
We'll see if he comes back.
Yeah.
Yeah. They basically the first picture is like they display all the components. The second picture is they display like alternate components that you can use, and the third picture is they display like a completed RT.
Yep.
Like it's more of a component list than build instructions, and it's kind of like a step 1 buy RT, step 2 step 3 victory kind of thing, like where there's no. But what's really odd about this one, because this is the 501st box with the clone ATRT in it, there's like a perfectly excellent build instruction with arrows and detailed steps and everything that is currently still to this day sitting on the FFG main website for Legion, that I think they could have just copied and like pasted AMG over FFG and called it a day. I don't.
Yeah.
Because, and this, people have figured this out, of course, and they're just completely bypassing the AMG build instructions and going to the FFG website to look at the ATRT build instructions that are there. And it's like, why wouldn't they just copy that PDF and like paste FFG over, AMG over FFG? Like, I don't know. I don't understand. And they could do the same thing for the cards.
Especially since it's a PDF, right? Like you can open PDFs in Illustrator and edit the text straight from a PDF.
I'm so glad you brought that up, Lucas. I'm going to say something right now that is probably the most upsetting about this whole thing. So during, and maybe you could chalk up what I'm about to say as ignorance of the people who said it, but during a stream, they specifically somebody asked them about why there's been misprints, and they said because FFG was working on an older version of Adobe.
It was the RG, why the RG hadn't been updated.
Yeah.
Like, why were they just tacking the keywords on at the end?
Because FFG had been working on an older version of the software that wasn't compatible with the version they have. I'm going to tell you something right now. That's not how it works. That's not how it works at all. If you send me an older version of an Illustrator file or an InDesign file, I can open it in the newer version. Do you know what else I can do? In Adobe Cloud, I can go back to and install an older version and use that. Or let's say they were using a newer version and I'm using an older version. Why are you a multi-million-dollar company not using updated versions of software? Like, I'm sorry, but this is just not an excuse. Because
also something to tack onto this real fast.
Yeah.
In Germany, we have a German rules document, and it's formatted all together in one document. So the people in Germany and translating for the other languages apparently have this file, because the only one that is not incorporated into the old formatting is the English one that's put out directly by AMG, and then that's translated by whoever does all the translations.
Yeah, I mean, anybody could take that old PDF, throw it in Adobe, and edit it themselves. Like,
yeah,
I don't really understand that at all. And if there's like a different, entirely valid reason why those keywords are just tacked on at the end, that's fine. But just like, tell us.
Or just contact the Asmodee translators in Germany, because apparently they have the file.
Right.
It's just, do we have another? Because I'm about to go into it. You have anything else you wanted to mention?
Oh, I was just going to say related to the ROG thing, and people have brought up the website too. Like, they keep missing the dates with the website, and it's like, communication and transparency are not the same.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, I'll let you say what you're going to say.
It's I just don't understand. And listen, we could chalk it up to, hey, we don't have enough people. You could say that. Well, maybe you shouldn't have fired everybody. You could say, we're learning the game. We don't really know. Well, you have a whole community here who actually knows the game. You could have asked any one of us, and we would have helped, but they didn't do that. When
And,
this
and
stuff,
it's been 2 years.
when this stuff comes out, I'll publicly say this. So when the swoop bikes, when we found out about the bases, I emailed AMG marketing 20 times in like 3 days, asking them for a comment. Hey, we're going to talk about this on the podcast. Do you want to offer a comment? They did not respond to me, but they literally put that notice out saying about, remember that notice? They said that, hey, that the everything else was screwed up, not the box for the swoop bikes and the base size, but leading into it, no one caught it. Not a single person. We've all been using these big bases, but it went through all these checks, and we're going to say that actually this was the right base. Like, that just doesn't make any sense, because how can you go through marketing? How can you go through pictures? How can you go through streams? How can, like, all this stuff is one base, and there's one failure point, which is what base goes in the box, and that was the right one. None of that makes any sense. And I'm just, where I was going with that is, look, we know these are messed up. They must have known, like, because there's got to be, unless they're just skipping quality control, right? Every company that does manufacturing at this scale has a quality control component. And unless they're skipping that piece, like, it's been a week now almost since we've known about these mistakes, and there's nothing from AMG. So, like, do I email them and ask them for a comment, and then we'll finally get another like image on Twitter about how these are messed up? It's inexcusable. And I'm listen, I know that some of you out there, and sorry guys, I'll let you guys, I know I'm on my whole soapbox right now, but listen, I know some of you guys think that we complain too much about the game. We get that feedback sometimes, and that we take it too seriously. But here's the problem. We love this game, and we want it to be the best game that it could possibly be. And, I think we could talk about balance stuff, and we could all argue like what units are good and what units aren't good. And we could be wrong in a lot of those instances, right? And just not see something that someone else sees. That's a thing that could happen. But when things are blatantly wrong, and like there's no fix for them,
Or just straight up missing.
or
Like,
missing, or
yeah.
just not right, and there's no like conversation about, oh no, this was, sorry, these dice are completely wrong, we don't have, and I saw some people think, well, maybe they're updating. That's not how that works. You got to do it first so that the rest of us know what we're using before you put out a new product. And it just feels to me, based, and we're going to get into this when we talk about the IG and DIN, but based on the rules that they're coming up with, based on these mistakes, is that they just don't care about this game. And everyone can say, we could go back to my original point, which was, oh, maybe they just don't have enough people, right? Well, they have enough people to put out the other games fine. Marvel Crisis Protocol's been going out great. I've talked to people who are huge and who are really into Marvel Crisis Protocol. They've maybe had like one or two mistakes, and they fixed them immediately and put up a print to play card, and just was like, oops, sorry, here, nobody, and no other mistakes. So that game's fine. Everything else seems to be going fine. They clearly don't care about this game. I'm sorry. That's how I feel. And to put enough people on it, to put enough effort into making this a positive experience, and they just don't seem to care. And I could keep going. I mean, the domino effect of this keeps going. And I'll give you an example. So we're retail for Legion. we have people after they see this or after they realize what's in the boxes before we ship their box are asking us for refunds because they don't want the product that they pre-ordered because now they find out the product screwed up. So now retail operations, use your local store, whoever your favorite is, right, is now sitting on product they can't sell because everybody knows it's bad product. And it's just, I just don't get this at all. And like, they clearly just don't care about this game, about the community. They just don't care. That period.
I've seen people be like, well, FFG wasn't perfect either.
True.
The only slightly true. It is true, but
Yeah.
the only like actual like print/component mistake I can think of through all the FFG releases was the debacle, the dewback base thing. Can you guys think of any other ones? Other than like
there's a
promo
promo card.
misprints?
Yeah, I was gonna say there was some promo card misprints, but the official product that I
Yeah.
can remember.
They had a supply issue with the phase 2 and the arcs for a bit there, but because what had happened was they'd moved to the Game Genix card sleeves, and there was some deal where they had to be printed on the box, and I think they had a bunch of stock that had the old box and not the new box, and they had to swap that out. So there was like a delay for a few months, because remember we gave away a bunch of arcs and phase 2s because nobody could get them.
That's right.
Yeah,
there was a shortage of arcs and phase 2s for
but anyways, keep going, Kyle. Sorry.
And even that I think is like slightly different. But even with the dewback thing, like once they realized that those bases were wrong, they immediately said something about it.
Yep.
They immediately provided a link for people that had already bought them to submit information to get a replacement.
Yep.
And they went into all the dewback boxes that were currently in the warehouse, and they opened them one at a time, and they put the correct bases in all of those boxes, and then they resealed them.
Yep.
So like they went to extreme lengths to fix that one mistake. And here, like, I mean, every AMG release has had some kind of extremely basic component or misprint issue. And I get the staffing point, but like it's at some point they just got this game thing has to stop working because it's been 2 years. Like hire somebody.
Yeah.
They've had this game now longer than the time period between the release of Legion and when FFG lost the game.
Yep.
Like put that into perspective for a second. So I don't know. I don't know what else to say.
Well, and also with FFG, they weren't perfect, right? We know that. But you know what they were though? Communicating. Like how many times?
In a way that was transparent and genuine.
Yeah, and how many times were Alex and Luke on our podcasts and like talking to us and reaching out to us and making efforts to reach out to the community and like going on streams at like Adepticon and spoiling cards. And like, I mean, they came to our Northeast Open event that we had because it was a large event, and Luke was there and he came on stream and he spoiled some of the, I forgot what it was at this point, but maybe Grievous or something. He spoiled some of the cards coming out for Clone Wars. Like they reached out to the community and saw the community as an active part of the game and of the feedback loop that you need in a game like this. And that has not been the same case with AMG.
Yeah, I think the toughest part for me, I gave him a pass for a lot of this because like we said, FFG made mistakes. I was like, oh, it's just the thing here, like a double-sided shield token, whatever. One missing upgrade card, okay, this is a new wave. I think the thing that was a big turning point for me is each wave is like getting worse. Like now we're missing multiple components, multiple cards, multiple typos. And it's just, as someone like both of you, like I love this game. I've been playing since it came out. I play all the time. It's a huge, like all I want is for Legion to be around for as long as it can. And something I want to talk about too that Jay slightly touched on, like when we talk about balance, balance is pretty subjective at times. I'm trying to use numbers, but even that, the numbers I pick are subjective on how I try and portray them. Right. We rant about balance, but in the end, that while balance is important, I mean, just look at 40K, that game is not balanced and it's super successful. I mean, I think Legion's better because it's much more balanced. Balance isn't going to kill Legion.
No.
But like you buying a new product, like I try to put myself in the shoes of a new player. Like if I bought a Legion box, realized it was missing a bunch of components that I didn't have, I'd have to get other things. I'd be like, oh, clearly, why am I going to invest in this game when it doesn't seem like there's that much care? Because right, this is also, at least for me, like a long-term investment. I'm pouring in hours painting my models.
Yep.
I'm pouring in a lot of my money to buy these models. I'm traveling, doing these things. Like I really love Legion. And so it's just tough seeing these things happening. And like we said with FFG, at least with the debacle, that was a huge issue, but they made it right immediately and, took the blame for it. No one was mad. And I don't know. It's just tough that the more we get into these waves, the farther we're getting, we're having more mistakes, whereas you would expect the opposite, right? Like at some point, they should be figuring these things out. And I don't know. I just don't understand how things are getting worse as we go, right? They should have more time to prepare, more employees. And yeah, as someone who really cares about this game, I know we might sound a little heated or frustrated, but it's, we're coming from this a place of we really love this game and want to see it succeed.
And I remember back when this first happened, there was some, there was concerns from us and others about like, all right, they're cutting all this staff and moving the game to a different company. We really like this game. Like, what's going to happen? And people were like, well, give them a chance,
Yeah.
Well, it's been 2 years. Like they've had a chance.
Right.
And
It's
so
yeah. I mean, listen, it's just, I understand that some of you are going to listen to this and be like, we're going overboard or we're being dramatic. But the problem is when we see this as a larger thing, right? That the farther this goes and the further we as a community allow this and keep making up excuses for AMG, the more the more it's gonna happen. Because once a company realizes you don't care, that you'll buy it anyways, well, then they'll just keep doing it. They'll be like, well, we don't have to spend as much money on this. They clearly don't care. Look, our sales are better than they've ever been. And it's just going to keep getting worse and worse and worse. Balance is going to become an issue. Like all these other things are going to start stacking up. And so at some point as a community, we have to put our foot down and say, okay, that's nice, but you need to pay attention to this community. We don't have tournament regulations. All we have is the last ones that FFG put out. There have not been any updated tournament regulations in what, 2 years almost? Three maybe? Since
yeah. Although that one, like the FFG tournament regs are pretty good. So I feel like
where are they,
if that's
Kyle?
what we're, I know that they're, I would love if they just copy pasted them over to AMG.
Yeah.
Whatever. I'm just saying, like, I think there's at least with something like that, there's a little bit of a danger of like, be careful what you wish for, because if they were to come out with their own new tournament regulations using the same quality standards that they appear to be applying to everything else, I don't think that we want that as a competitor.
I just want them to take away the copyright FFG, put a copyright AMG, and re-upload the document on their website.
Here's my problem with it at the end of the day. And we've fielded these questions. New people to Legion, an event organizer wants to run an event, wants to TO, loves, is really interested in Legion, wants to put on a Legion event, goes, okay, where's all the information? And you're like, well, 7 of it is over here on this website, and the other 5 is over here on this website. And they're like, why is it on that website? Who is that? Well, that's the people that use it. Like, you know what I mean? And if they didn't come to somebody in the community who really knew what's going on, there's no clear rhyme or reason or like established path for anyone to follow at all to do anything.
And then don't forget to remind your players not to buy certain products as a first off, because they won't have the right components to play, despite it being on the box that it has those components.
Yeah. Well, and here's a question with things like the shield tokens. It's not even a matter of like what order you buy those things in. Like if you need shield tokens for your Droidicas, the solution is to buy the Droidica expansion, right? So then you have like
no one else has 4 shields. Yeah.
Right. Like the Droidica models, like you can't use the Droidica models without the shield tokens from the Droidicas. So you're like, okay, I guess I need shield tokens. I guess that means I have to buy the Droideka expansion. So now you have 2 units of Droidekas and only 4 shield tokens. Like it's not, it's, you know, they don't just sell like packs of shield tokens. That's
Right. Yeah.
That's not something where like, even if you're a veteran player, you're going to have either you're going to have enough shield tokens and too many Droidekas, you know, more
Yeah.
Droidekas than you can field, or you're going to have enough Droidekas, but not enough shield tokens.
Yeah,
So,
and at the end of the day, my question to you, the listener, is okay, if you're listening to this and you're upset that we're saying this, okay, where's your line? When are you holding them responsible? Because I've seen a lot of stuff. Oh, it's not AMG, it's this. I go, no, at the end of the day, it's AMG. Like, if we mess up a product here at the Fifth Trooper, who are you? You call me. You send us an email and say, hey, you guys messed this up, you know, because we make mistakes. Sometimes shipping makes mistakes, like some, but at the end of the day, I'm held responsible for anything that happens over here. So at the end of the day, AMG is held responsible for anything that happens over there. And at some point, we need to hold them, their feet to the fire. And so
I guess for me, I don't even care if it's AMG or Asmodee. I just like, I want the game to have the
Yeah.
products and not have typos. Like hit the Asmodee customer service line, hit the AMG one. Like they're both corporations making this game. Yeah, there's a hierarchy of how they're involved. But in the end, like say AMG goes, oh, well, we're understaffed and we don't have a proofreader, then let's talk to, you know, everyone contact Asmodee, complain about these issues, and then maybe they'll give them enough money to hire someone to proofread these things. Like for it's even at the point for me, I don't even care who's at fault. It's just like the thing for me is the end product on the table, and there's these different brands, and you know, people talk about politics, but the issue is these are the brands names that are on this product. And so I mean, I don't know, it to me it doesn't matter who's at fault. I just want the things that say on the box to be in the box, and I want the products to not have typos. And like we said with balance, you know, they have points updates. You can just listen to the community and look at, you know, what's winning after a year, and you can adjust it. You know,
Yep.
FFG put out tauntauns, which are not well balanced. FFG created clone standby sharing, which was also really unbalanced. But like you can change that. Like we said, balance is something that changes over time. Products that just are missing components, typos, quality control, that to me is less of like arbitrary game design and more just like how a business is run. And so it's like something on the business end somewhere needs to happen that I don't know. It's like Star Wars too. Like it just blows my mind. Like,
Yeah.
like Star Wars is one of the biggest IPs of all time.
yeah, like we
Yeah,
as a consumer base, like it doesn't, like we don't care whose fault it is or who's to blame or how it happened. Like we just want it to be better.
Yeah.
You know?
But what I guess what I was saying with the blame was like sometimes like a lot I've seen people use it as an excuse. And it's like somebody needs to be held accountable at some level. So, all right, so let's wrap this up. Here's what we're going to ask you guys to do. If you are upset about this, and if you want to do something, there's a surefire way to make a change. You can go and contact the customer service lines at Asmodee and let them know why you're upset and what about the product is upsetting you. You can email them at customerservice@asmodeena.com. That's ASMODEENA.com. Or you can call them at 855-382-8880. This is not, listen, just so everybody knows, I'm not blowing up their spot. This is from their website, their shop website. So if you're upset about the product, don't go to your local store. They can't do anything about it. You go directly to Asmodee and complain about it. Now, I know what you're saying. Okay, Jay, well, you know, I've seen this comment. Well, you guys are making money. Okay, guess what we're doing? We don't sell the swoop bikes anymore. I've removed those from our website. We also will not be selling any more Battle Force components. So that's how we're doing. And also, we sent out 5,000 free Gar Saxon shield cards. So I'm putting my money where my mouth is and saying no to this. So we are not selling these products that we don't believe in. And also, we will help the community where we can to support some of these cards and stuff like the Gar Saxon shield card. And so that's how we're and we're doing this podcast, right? So those are all, that's us saying no more to this. Like I no more. I'm not doing this with them anymore. Something needs to change, and they need to hear this. And the blame needs to stop being shifted, and they need to stop getting cranky on streams and being mad at the community for calling them out about stuff. They need to take ownership for what's going on, and they need to make a change so that this community and this game can be successful, and that we can move forward and have a great, future with all of this.
I think one thing to remember too, if you call this line or email, is getting mad won't necessarily make it receive the best. I guess they're a corporation, so maybe they have customer service that won't care, but have specific things that you have issues with. So for example, we listed some things here in this cast. If you have your Battle Force box, and especially if you bought one of these products, if there's components that says on the box or in that little fill out that aren't in there, aka not enough order tokens, missing shield tokens, you could even say I bought this product and it's missing things that it said it has. The more explicit you can be about these things, you can talk about explicit typos, explicit cards, have the details, have the evidence of the things that you're frustrated. Don't just go on there and go, Asmodee AMG is burning this game in the ground. That's not going to get anywhere.
Nope.
If you call, especially be nice. These are just random customer service people. Like they're,
For
not
sure.
making enough
Be
money
polite
to
always.
hear some angry gamers rant at them, but have explicit things. And the whole point of this is whether, we think, Asmodee has the money. So if they want us to keep buying this game, they see the numbers. I mean, if you look at it, Legion, I think, is the number 4 top most selling game. It's like 2 Games Workshop, then Marvel Crisis Protocol, then us. They know there's a lot of money here. And if they start getting complaints, maybe they'll throw more money to AMG, give them lead devs, give them a proofreader, etc. Whatever. They're a business. They know how to make things work, grease the wheel. So have specific issues, have specific complaints. And hopefully they can make it better. I don't think it's too much to ask that, my box didn't come with these components. Can you either ship me these components, or is there any plan to fix this in future runs? Because I think the Battle Forces as a concept and the swoops are fine products. But it's another thing when they're just missing stuff.
Yep.
Yeah, and I think it's totally reasonable as like a purchaser of a product to be like, hey, I bought this. It doesn't have all the things that it's supposed to have. Like, send them to me. Like, send me what I paid for.
Yeah.
Like, that's 100% reasonable.
Yeah.
Like, don't go make your own shield tokens. Like,
right.
Contact Asmodee and be like, send me some shield tokens.
Right.
At
some point, the excuses got to stop, and we need to stand up for ourselves as a community, and so that they, in a polite, effective way, like Lucas said, but we need to stand up for ourselves as a community and say enough is enough, man. Like, get this right so that we can all enjoy this game properly without stressing out, so that people like the 5th Trooper and the Scoundrels can stress out about the balance instead of like the components, right? Because that's what we do. We're just pundits who stress out about the balance of the game and whether something's good or not. And it may or not be true what we're saying. It just is.
We've been wrong
feelings.
Quite a few times.
Yeah.
That's the point. We want to rant about our feelings, not that the product
not that we don't
issues.
have the components to play the game with.
Yeah.
So for now, our goal is we wanted to get this out in the open. We wanted to talk about it, tell you guys our feelings about it. And ideally we'll try we're not going to harp on things that have already happened already, and anything moving forward that happens in these boxes, we'll make sure we put it in our news section. And then, if we get a collection of these again, then we'll do this again. But I highly recommend that you guys reach out to the customer service at Asmodee and let them know what's wrong with your product and why it's not okay, in a nice, polite way.
Yeah. And, bearing in mind that, like, I'm sure people will be like, well, if you don't like them, don't buy them. Like, this is, this isn't like switching toilet paper brands if you're unhappy. This is like a hobby game that people pour hundreds of dollars and dozens, if not hundreds of hours into.
Yeah.
Like, even if you're not buying every product, you're still invested in the overall quality of the game.
Yeah.
And you can't just like go buy different toilet paper. This is not that. It's a very different animal. So all right. Did we say enough about that?
I think I
probably
said what I wanted to say. Yeah.
Unfortunately, I think
I still feel angry, but yeah.
Well, Here's the thing. We're going to talk a little bit about IG and Din previews, and I think some of this is going to be kind of related. So,
Yeah, a little bit cross pollination,
just to set that up a little bit. The first thing we saw with the battle forces was not the physical components; it was the rules for the battle forces.
Yep.
And there were like typos and other errors in the rules for the battle forces.
Right, forgot about that. Yeah.
So, now we have more cards with Din and IG, and there are, I think, some. I don't want to say typos because, as far as we can tell, there aren't clear typos or misprints in these cards, other than like the Din flamethrower projector. What I will say is that for a game that is kind of foundationally based on, it's a miniatures game that's like built on top of a card game, and card games are very intentional about mechanics and like wording and like specific words that are used. And Legion is that. Legion is built kind of on the bones of like a card game from the ground up. And we'll get to the wording of some of these command cards and stuff. But like it's just significantly sloppier than previous from a like wording and therefore how you implement it mechanically perspective. But why don't we just dive in, because I want to talk about these generally. I don't just want to talk about like the weirdness that's present in some of the wording of these effects. Let's start with IG.
Din first, or
no,
IG?
let's do IG first, because that was literwe
a
like
few
today.
hours ago.
Yeah,
so these are real hot takes.
This is super hot. We've kind of talked previously, because they've been previewed previously, about the unit cards for both IGs, so I don't think we need to like walk through that in detail. Do you? Do you guys feel differently about that?
No, I just think only if not in detail, just in relation to the new stuff.
Yeah. So I mean,
they
basically
have 5 health, armor, guns. One has gunslinger, one has arsenal. They're very similar.
Yeah, exactly. So
if you don't know what they do, you can look on the website.
Yeah, there is an article buried on the Atomic Mass Games website, or you can link it from their Twitter, which is probably the easiest way to find it. Let's talk about the command cards.
All right.
Focused on the kill. This is IG-88, 1 pip.
Yeah.
Permanent. Well, IG-88 is performing an attack against a unit that is the target of a bounty keyword. That unit cannot spend tokens. If IG-88 has wounds equal to or exceeding his wound threshold, he is not defeated until the start of the end phase.
Gameplay wise, I love it.
So I love where they are trying to go with this. I think the effect of having something specific to a bounty target is really cool. I think this is an effect that's like pretty powerful but not ridiculous. So I really love that part of the card.
Same.
I also, at least in theory, like the cannot be defeated part of the card. My problem with is with how this is worded.
There's a few things that aren't super clear, but
so
I like the idea of the effect also.
The idea of the effect is great.
Yeah.
I wish that they had just worded it like stims, which already exists in the game.
Yeah.
There's already a precedent for how that works. That's essentially what this is trying to do. All you'd have to do is say, whenever IG-88 takes wounds, you may put them instead on this card during the end phase, transfer all the wounds from this card to IG-88. The reason, by the way, that stims is worded like that is because a unit, and more specifically a mini, cannot suffer more wounds than their wound threshold. That's like a hard rule in the game. And you use this all the time. You just never think about it. This is basically like, suppose you have, a unit of rebel troopers, they take 3 wounds. Like you have to kill 3 models because each of those rebel troopers can only take one. Right. You can't put 3 wound tokens on one guy. So each unit has like a hard cap of wound tokens that it can take that's equal to its wound threshold. That's a very sensible and very like hard rule in this game. In IG-88's case, it means that he cannot have more than 5 wound tokens, which the way that this is worded, since it's not worded like stims, is essentially it means like so he takes 5 wounds. He's got 5 wounds on his unit card. He's not dead yet because it's not the end phase. At the very end of every turn, you could just remove one wound token, and then he's got 4 wound tokens on his card, and he doesn't die. And there's no way that I can see on this card to overwound him. Bless you, Lucas's wife.
Bless you.
Now it says here, it's possible that they could come out with a form ruling, like sort of liberally interpreting this as like he can exceed his wound threshold. The problem is how this is worded, right? We talked about card games, but like it says if IG88 has wounds equal to or exceeding his wound threshold.
Yeah.
So it says if he has wounds exceeding his wound threshold. There's no way for that to happen, and they don't provide a way on this card. Like, right? Like what it should
what's
say.
going to happen is once it comes out, they'll say the fact that it says if gives him the ability to have it. I don't know if that messes with other cards, so I don't think with that wording, but I don't know if there's a precedent for if something can happen means you can break a rule for that to happen. So I think it will just be a on the forums they'll probably say IG88 can either go through or the wording of it is implicit, something like that. But it definitely could have been more clear since that's
yeah, I think this will end up being fine from a mechanical perspective with a forum ruling, but
yeah,
like it would have been so much easier to just word it like stims, which already exists, or even on here before that sentence put IG88 can suffer wounds exceeding his wound threshold. If IG88 has wounds equal to or exceeding his wound threshold, he is not defeated until the start of the end phase. Like there's a phrase there that's obviously missing that you just need to add, and then it's clean. Right. It makes sense how it works.
It's not clear if you can repair in different things yet, if it exceeds it. This is something I kind of thought about. So he is not defeated until the end of the end phase.
Start of the end phase.
You repair him under his wound threshold. Yeah, say you repair him under his wound threshold. Does he still die? Because it says it's essentially delaying the effect of him dying. So is it even possible to prevent him from dying? Does that make sense?
Well, I think it is, because it says,
that's what Kyle was saying earlier.
Yeah, because if it doesn't say, if it said if IG88 suffers wounds equal to or exceeding his wound threshold, then I think you could say that he essentially enters like a doomed state once he suffers 5 wounds, and like there's nothing you can do to prevent him from being defeated in the end phase. But what it says is if IG88 has wounds equal to or exceeding his wound threshold, he is not defeated until the start of the end phase. So that's like a present, that's like a present time check. So the way that I read this is that at the start of the end phase, if he's got 5 wounds on his card, he dies. If he doesn't, he doesn't die.
Yep.
Yeah.
This is, and I know what you guys are, listening are going to say, well, they'll put out a rules clarification or, whatever. Maybe, but for any of you who have been at a tournament, like, do you know how complicated it is for somebody who's newer to like understand that there's a rules forum where we specify really rules that should have been on a card? Like, it's hard to explain that to new players, and I really wish they would word these correctly the first time and not have to do like 30 rules forums rulings on one unit because they couldn't take the time to like. I completely agree with you, Kyle, and this is something we do in Stormtide, right? When I'm creating something new for Stormtide, if it's similar to something that already exists in Legion that we know the rules to, I try to word it almost, if not exactly, very similar, so that you already know the ruling on this particular effect. And I agree with you 100%. Why wouldn't you just do that?
Yeah, stims already exist. Just make it like stims without a cap on it. Yeah. Just literally copy paste the language from stims and remove the 2 wound threat thing on stims. Like that's it. I don't know. What's interesting too is like he has a gear slot. You could potentially stack this with stims. And if it turns out that this is one of those situations where like you can't, he can only ever have 5 wound tokens, and you do the check at the end of the turn, and if you remove a wound token before the end of the turn, he doesn't die. Like there's going to be some really inexpensive and easy ways to kind of game this so that he's like invincible, basically. As long as you have, 1 unit with repair at the end of the turn that hasn't gone yet, or if you have stims that you can shuffle things around with, then you're going to basically make it so that like, because right now with as this is written, it seems like you can't overkill him, right? Like once he gets to 5, he's at 5 and that's it. So just take, run both IGs and have 2 to 3 repair bots. Like they're only 9 points for Empire. anyway, yeah, I love where this card is going. I think it could have been worded a little bit more cleanly. I think that we will eventually
Intention's
get there
good.
with a form. The intention is great. I think we will
Yeah.
eventually
Yeah.
get there with a form ruling. I wish we didn't have to. The
Same
form
with the
summary, at
form
least.
ruling. I love the card.
Yeah.
It's a really cool effect, giving you power on bounty. The place I went immediately to this, shooting force users and
Yep.
getting them without surges, because the
And
big
without
thing
dodges,
for
yeah.
Vader, for people with dodges, getting that surge conversion, and that dodge is a big part of your entire kit. And with this, you just gotta say, nope, you're getting your 50% saves, and I'm just gonna blast you with everything. It's a really cool effect, and I also love that, you know, once he hits his wound threshold, you still got some time before he dies. Like, you know, he will not die until he activates. So if he's not dead this turn, you won't kill him until after his activation, which is cool.
Yeah.
Like it's a cool effect, right?
It's a
Like,
very cool effect.
you have a model on the table that is just like, once he has this card, and it's permanent, remember? So he's bulking this up. Like, that's a very cool thing. So you can go last with them. Like, you know, there's no bid for priority or something. You could have 1 health left. They slap you, you know, the whole lightsaber, and you're still gonna go and hit him back or shoot whatever back. It's a very cool effect, very thematic too for his character.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. The unstoppable droid.
Yeah. Basically, I'm excited to put some of these guys on the table.
Oh, I'm very excited to put the IGs on the table.
Yeah.
Independent programming, 2-pip IG88 permanent. Each time IG88 issues an order to himself, he gains 1 aim token, and he also gains independent dodge.
Yeah,
I love this
Sweet.
card. This is great. It's
Yeah.
super. This is like, we talked about some of Din's, like his 1 and 2 pips, or maybe we didn't because that preview came out. Anyway, might have talked about it on the Discord or something, but like, this is a super simple effect that's really interesting. Like, there's nothing complicated about it. It's a free aim token or a free dodge token, but it's like super useful and great.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And
Like,
I like
stuff
it.
doesn't have to be complicated.
The order for this one, I think, is much better than the order that it is on the Mandos. Because the Mandos, right, what I think they get an aim when they don't have it, and they have defend, so you get a dodge and you do give them an order.
Mhm.
I find often, right, when you give someone an order, you might be in cover or shooting and then going to cover, right? When you have order control, you want more offensive abilities than defensive. When you don't have order control, you might want more defensive. So I think also it's worth noting that this effect is more powerful than the Mando side, because you're getting more damage when you have order control, which order control can be pseudo defense because you have mobility and timing. And then when you don't have order control, you get the dodge. So between that and armor, all right, you can leave an IG hanging with armor and a dodge and heavy cover, and I think you're pretty safe. I mean, obviously a whole army can kill it, but if you're sitting at long range or plinking away, right, that's not
think
getting hit by
it's
snipers or anything.
I love the idea of these permanents with him. I love, like, I love every, like, you know, to say some positive things. Like, yeah, this is all great. I think this unit's great. I don't see anything like super overpowering with any of this. It's just really good for this unit. Focus down on playability with this unit, and you know, it's kind of thematic, and yeah, it just needed that one. Just needs to be reworded or a forums update, and you're good to go.
Yep.
Good unit.
Yeah, I dig IG88 a lot.
Yeah.
So should we talk about the last 2-pip command card before we talk about
11.
IG11, since they have a
Yeah.
shared card?
Yep.
Yeah.
So I could talk about this. So IG88 has 3 command cards: a 1-pip, a 2-pip, and then a 2-pip that is shared with IG11 and IG88. So IG88 has 2 2-pips and no 3-pip, which is pretty interesting. Also an effect you haven't seen
I actually
before.
really like that. And unlike the 5
Yeah.
of first command hand, which is really awkward, I feel like that's actually really good for Empire, because Empire has a lot of crowding at the 3-pip slot.
Yeah.
Yep.
But
I have a
like,
question.
yeah.
Are command cards are, oh no, they're unique. I forgot about that.
They are.
That's
Yeah,
what
you
I
can-
wanted
you
to ask.
cannot-
So
you
you
cannot
couldn't put
take
2 of
two of
these.
these.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
was
you
like,
can't take 2 pushes, and you definitely can't take 2 of these. Yeah.
Mhm. So this card is called a machine made for killing. It's a 2-pip, and it can give an order to either IG unit, but only one. And it says you must nominate an IG11 or IG88. The nominated IG11 or IG88 gains 1 aim token, demoralize 3, and steady. Another
Again,
sweet effect.
yeah, super simple, really cool and interesting card effect.
Yeah, I love it. Aim,
So
get a little more
potentially-
damage, demoralize,
Right.
cause a little panic.
Now
and
imagine
then
if you were
get
going
steady, which is
after
huge.
you play this on turn 3 after you've played IG's other 2 cards, and now you've got 2 aims, demoralize 3 steady, and if you're if you're going after a bounty target, it can't spend any of its tokens, and you can like sit there and take a bunch of hits all turn and then just like crush something. It's
Yeah.
not bad. It's not bad.
Especially steady, right? With IG88 really wallops at range 3. Since you have Arsenal, you can combine the 2 guns for, was it 3 blacks, 3 whites, surge crit, pierce 1? Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah,
So
it's a really good range 3 pool.
with sharpshooter 1, and then now you're gonna have 2 aims, like,
Give
and they
them
can't
a-
spend any tokens. Like you can half health a Jedi with that easily, right? You're
It's
pumping like
an ion spider, basically. It's an
Yeah.
ion spider pool with
with
pierce.
sharpshooter and surge crit.
Sharpshooter, surge crit, and pierce. Yeah.
Yeah.
More expensive, obviously, and not
Yeah.
range 4. But still. Yeah, I dig it. I like IG80 a lot.
Mhm.
I think all this together, yeah, I'm really happy where IG88 is as far as design space and balance space.
Yep.
Yeah, he seems like a sweet unit.
Should we talk about
Great.
11?
Yeah. Let's do it.
So he has a cool feature that's unique to 11. He has AI. It's right in the lore. IG88. His whole thing in the Star Wars lore is right. He's like a sentient droid,
Yep.
right? So IG11 has this AI. He has 2
Program.
different AI cards. They're called program cards.
Yeah, programmed is the keyword.
Mhm.
Oh, sorry.
Come on, Lucas.
And they give
Yeah,
you
you're fired.
AI. It's like a forced AI mechanic, but you can choose which one you get.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, I guess I just always called them AI cards. You must equip a programmed card. Oh yeah.
What, you think Kyle was lying to you? You said that. You said that as if Kyle was wrong.
No. I was
Getting a
just
little big for your britches there.
Yeah, I finished up school, so I just think I know everything now.
Yeah.
Doctor.
You know what you're not
Dr.
a
Lucas.
doctor of is understanding upgrades.
Understanding keywords.
Yeah.
Well, the 2 programmings are nanny programming and bounty programming. Nanny programming, 0 points, IG 11, only rebels. And when building an army, Grogu gains counterpart IG 11. And then IG 11 also gains AI dodge a move. The bounty programming is IG 11 only. So this is for both rebels or empire. You gain bounty and AI aim, attack. If you choose a commander as the target of bounty, your weapons gain pierce 1, keyword weapons. If you choose an operative as a target of bounty, your weapons gain suppressive. And this one is 5 points. Some things real quick I want to point out. Now rebels have 2 bounty hunters between Din Djarin and IG11. So now rebels can run double bounty.
No,
Does
they
Din
can't.
Djarin not have bounty?
Din has it, but IG11 does not because
It just says
this is not
IG11
Empire
only.
only. That's interesting.
Yeah,
That's
this is not Empire
Yeah.
only.
Yeah, because nanny programming is in Rebel only, but bounty programming is.
Hey,
not
I was
Empire
right
only.
this time.
Interesting. You were.
Oh, what a mess. This cast is such a mess.
Yeah, there was a lot of
But all I had to
speculation that
say-
one of these would be a Rebel card and one of these would be a Empire card, but that's not the case. Okay, interesting. Continue.
Sorry,
was
we're
wrong.
reading these
Yeah.
as we go, people.
I was wrong, Lucas.
These are very hot takes. I mean, like we said, it came a few hours ago. But first thing I thought about as a longtime double bounty player, rebels now have double bounty. And then also giving all your guns pierce 1 for picking a commander is sweet.
Not guns.
And
Not guns.
All your
Weapons.
weapons, which is going
Yeah.
to be relevant for his command cards.
Yep.
It's crazy. Pierce 1 is an amazing weapon. It's probably one of the best weapon keywords in the game. And one of his weapons already has Pierce 1. So like his range 3 weapon gains Pierce 2. or ends up with Pierce
His
2.
range 4 weapon, right, is 2 blacks and a white with surge hit, sharpshooter 1, gunslinger, and now pierce 1.
Yeah.
So like you can at long range be a gunslinger and handing out 2 suppression and probably pushing at least 1 to 2 hits through with pierce.
Yeah, it's really good. It's 2 black and a
Yeah.
white. And you probably can take an aim action because it's range 4, so you're going to be sitting.
Think about like a rebel DLT, but it has sharpshooter 1, gunslinger, and pierce 1.
Yeah, it's really good. But like the range 3 gun now has pierce 2.
Against commanders.
No,
No,
period.
it's
Full
everyone.
stop.
So
Is
if
it-
you pick your bounty target, so at the end of deployment, yeah.
If you I understand. Sorry. Wow.
Yeah, you
that's
don't have to
much
be
better.
attacking your bounty target.
Right. Okay. Yep. Got it.
Well, and you have to wonder, based on your read of this, like, was it supposed to just buff all of his weapons all the time against every target based on what you pick as a bounty, or was this intended to be more like IG-88's command card?
Oh, like when
Um,
you're shooting your bounty target?
Yeah. That's how I thought it was intended. Yeah. Wow.
Nope.
Yeah.
Pierce 1 all the time.
just
all
says,
day,
yeah.
every time. 60%
You just
of the
gain these
time it works
keywords.
every time. Yeah. And this is for every weapon. So this is, like you said, this is for his range 4 rifle. This is for his range 3 blaster. This is for his 4 red melee.
Yeah.
And this is for his self-destruct, and then also his, attacks plural that he's making with his 1 pip, which, why don't we just get right into those?
All right. You want me to do the 3 pip first?
Sure.
All right. Anti-capture protocols, IG-11. When building a command hand, if your army includes IG-11, this card must be included. At the end of IG-11's activation, if he has 3 or more wounds, he performs an attack with the following weapon. Weapon. Keyword there. 3
Yep.
red, 2 black. This is a melee attack. Or no, self-destruct.
It's a
Self-destruct.
Self-destruct. Blast, impact 3, suppressive. So here's the thing. It should say self-destruct on there somewhere because
It should say he gains self-destruct 3.
yeah.
Based on how it would be cleaner that way.
Yeah.
So the
still
the
works
thing is
based
though
on how
it's
this is
optional
worded.
for self-destruct 3. So I think
Yeah.
the wording is it's a mandatory effect that you must. So the way self-destruct works is the keyword gives you opportunity to use a self-destruct attack, and the self-destruct attack is what kills you. So I think it's worded this way because it's mandatory that if you play this card and you got 3 wounds,
You
you're
have to
blowing
use
up.
it. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think though, sure. But like, I think a lot of people could make the mistake I just made and think that that's just a melee attack and that they're going to survive, right? Because it's not clear that it's self-destruct. If you're not well versed.
The icon looks very similar to
Yeah.
the melee icon.
Yeah.
I saw people on the Discord wondering why this was a melee attack. So
Yeah.
I think you're right, Lucas. I think it needs that language about he performs an attack with this weapon to make it mandatory, because like you said, just the self-destruct X keyword is not mandatory. But it would be a little cleaner if he actually gained self-destruct, because then you wouldn't have to,
Yeah.
like, you still have to look up what a self-destruct
Yeah.
weapon does. He is defeated when he
Think of it
uses
like a
this
mine.
because it's right. It's part of it's an inherent part of using a self-destruct weapon is that the mini is defeated after you use it.
Mhm.
Makes sense, obviously. But yeah, I love the theme on this. This is a super strong
It's
attack.
crazy good.
Like even just
Luckily, it's
on the
3
raw
pips.
dice,
You have a chance to kill him, but
right? Yeah, it is a 3 pip, so I guess there's that. I think probably the turn previous you'd want to bury him in melee with like a relatively puny unit, so they don't have as big of a chance to kill him. But like, yeah, I mean it's 3 red, it's 2 black, and if you use the bounty programming, it also has Pierce 1.
yeah. And
Which,
blast.
like,
That's
why
a really
wouldn't
important
blast?
thing.
Why would you ever use nanny protocols?
I
Like,
don't
why
know.
would you ever play Grogu?
I don't know. I mean, and if you're gonna run Grogu, just put him on Din.
Yeah, you want him on
Yeah.
Din for the heals, but
I get that there's
this
like
bounty
a
protocol,
5
since it's
point
both
difference,
factions, so
but
good.
It's I mean, just getting Pierce 1 on all your weapons is crazy.
Well,
Like
And that's not going
Even-
to happen all the time, right? Because you could face somebody with like a field commander versus a,
I guess,
a regular commander, but that's
yeah.
not very often, right? So
I mean, and bounty itself is a great keyword. Like if this
Yeah.
just said you gain bounty, end, period, stop, like that would still probably be worth
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
Yeah. Or you gain bounty and surge to crit since you surged to hit.
Right. Something.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah. So yeah, self-destruct, 5 dice area attack with Pierce. Gross. That's all I have to say about that.
I mean, you can,
Go home, Palpatine.
I don't know. Yeah, you're gonna really cripple anything in range of you, especially core units. Like, oh, pikes. Oh, cool. They got all their dodges, and you're putting 3 through with Pierce. You just chopped fully dodged up pikes in half. Like,
Yeah, and anything else like a 5-man, 4 or 5-man unit is like gone. Like,
In combination with the card we're about to talk.
well,
Like,
and this is also at the end of his activation, so he can
Yeah.
still just
Yeah.
like attack stuff normally on his turn.
Yep.
And then do this.
and you could have
when he's
steadied
done.
last turn and double moved in to get all close.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my god.
Like you almost
Alright.
want to think real hard about putting 3 wounds on IG-11.
Yeah.
Got to time that right.
I think
Um,
you want to try and one shot him on a
yeah,
turn where this
full-
card is
yeah.
not out.
Yep, 100%. Yeah, you want to do the 1 pip?
Sure.
I can do it. Mechanical Carnage. I love the name. IG-11. IG-11 loses Gunslinger. The first time IG-11 declares an attack action during his activation, instead of attacking normally, he performs 1 attack against each enemy unit at range 2.
So I think this is slightly less crazier than it looks. Don't get me wrong, it still is crazy because you're talking about, I mean,
Mhm.
you can use either his range, like if you're shooting into white saves, you might use the range 4 gun because it has better dice. If you're shooting
Yeah.
into red saves, you definitely want the range 3 gun because with the bounty programming, you'll have Pierce 2
Mhm.
for all of these attacks. But note that it says against each enemy unit at range 2, not at range 1 to 2. Every effect in this game that is not a donut historically is worded as at range 1 to X because the range ruler segments are specific segments, and if you're at range 2, that means that things that are at range 1, like within 6 inches of IG-11 in this case, are not valid targets for this
Mhm.
ability.
Mhm.
So it
So
has
you can't
it has
just
a,
run in the middle of them and blast everything.
I mean, you sort of can, but like you have to do it in a way that your targets are still outside range 1 of IG-11. I don't know if that was intended. We got like the 501st card said within range 1, which within and at mean 2 very different
Yep.
things. We talked about that on previous. To me, this strikes me as kind of similar. People were like, well, maybe that's a way to like sort of balance this card. It doesn't make a lot of sense thematically, but also like if you're going to balance this card, maybe just make it so that he can't attack everything with a Pierce 2 weapon. Like that's where I would have gone, if people are like, well, this is too good. I don't know.
Yeah, I feel like
think
IG-11 before seeing these cards seemed kind of lackluster compared to IG-88,
agree.
and then
Yeah.
seeing these programming cards and command cards, I'm like, holy moly, he got a lot better out of nowhere.
Is there, and maybe I'm missing it, but is there a reason why it would say the first time he declares an attack action?
Because you have Gunslinger. Oh, because
No, he loses
each time you
Gunslinger.
attack, it's because you do an attack and then you attack everyone else with attack actions. So if it didn't say the first time, you would attack someone and then you get to attack everyone else in range 1, and each of those attacks would proc the ability. So it has to say
prevent
the
it
first
from
attack.
looping.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
Oh,
good. I'm
I
glad they
see.
put that in
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, or also just keep looping and looping. You
Well,
just
but I
keep
thought the
shooting everyone.
action is the thing that stops it, because the action is you get 2 actions, right? And so,
Well, right.
but the other ones are attacks, not attack actions. So that's
might-
what, anyways, I just thought that was interesting.
Well, that's true. And you
Or
can
just
only
to be
perform
clear.
1 attack action on your activation usually. I mean, I guess maybe it could be some kind of future proofing if he ever gets a card that allows him to attack twice or something, or
Mhm.
take 2 attack actions rather. I don't know.
Just wondering. Just seemed like an odd
Yeah,
for all these
maybe it is a
other
little
areas
redundant.
where they're not very specific with the wording. It seems like an odd area to be specific with the wording.
Yeah, and in this case, it's a way that's kind of redundant with how things work already.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Boom!
Um,
Smarter than Kyle and Lucas, doctor of nothing. Yeah, take that.
I don't know. I think IG-11 is kind of insane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I think all these the cards that got spoiled today really like put him up there. Like before I was looking at his card going, yeah, he's pretty good. And then they had the nanny program. I'm like, that's stupid. Who cares about that? And then all this came out. I'm like, there it is. There's the stuff he's good
There
at.
it is.
And
Yep.
as a reminder, everyone in the future, if you want to take both IG-88 and IG-11, you're going to need Underworld connections.
Yep. Accurate.
Yep.
And you're gonna need to be Empire because I think that 88 is Empire,
IG-88 is not Rebels.
not Rebel. Yeah.
Yeah.
Empire. I guess I'm playing Empire forever.
So I think we brought that up last cast, with the bounty hunters, and somebody wrote, I have been playing this completely wrong. And I was like, yeah, that's something we got to look out for. You want to run double bounty, you got to have Underworld connections.
And you can't issue orders to your mercs anymore. That was one that I know a few people got caught off guard by. But I figured out a sweet trick. In an Iden list, if you infiltrate Iden, you get to pick your commanders and you pick Boba, and then Boba can issue orders to himself, the generic command cards. And so you get around that.
That doesn't work because you can't pick a commander you cannot pick an operative when you do covert ops. It has to be a core
You have
unit.
to pick a
special
it does?
forces. Yeah.
Oh, dang.
Have you been
I
doing
thought
that
I
wrong,
figured out this
Lucas?
cool
Hey, anybody who's been playing Lucas in Germany, he's cheating. He
Apparently
is cheating.
so. So it has to be core special forces.
Yep.
Darn. All
It's
right,
right there in
never
the
mind.
covert ops rules, Lucas.
Oh, Lucas, so disappointing.
Man, I was so excited. I thought I figured out this really cool sweet trick around it.
Nope.
Makes sense.
Oh
Yeah.
boy, you're a disappointment to me, son.
Now, what you could do if you wanted to build some kind of weird list where you had like a couple pikes and you had one of them with the Vigo upgrade is you could promote the pikes and then use the courage bubble of your courage 2 pike core unit for the other
Oh, yeah.
pikes. That seems kind of edge case, but it's a thing you could do if you wanted to.
You know where you could have learned that, Lucas, is right on our tool, legionquickguide.com. It has all the rules in there, including covert ops.
All right. Do you guys want to talk about Din or should we punt that?
No, let's do it.
All right.
So
Already
what have we
said
already
that, so,
seen,
like,
right?
Oh, you're gonna pay for this, Jay. All right.
All right, it's Beskar Spears new, and then all the command cards, right? We only had one
Yeah.
command card.
Yep.
So there's
Yeah,
not
so let's
that
talk
much
about the
that's
new stuff, and then I want to do like a separate bit on the Amban because we haven't really talked in detail about it. And
Oh yeah.
one of
Yes,
the
we have.
things we've been talking, I don't think we've talked in. So there's a lot of things that you can do with this that we haven't really talked specifically about
Yeah,
that
sure.
are not
Attacking
intuitive
while
at
you're
all.
in
So
melee.
oh, the list is lengthy.
Yeah. All right. So let's just
Um,
go through the new cards real quick. Let's do command cards first, because then we can talk
Yep.
about. So we've got what, 2? Did we
yeah,
have?
Whistling Birds we knew about. So the 1 and 2 pip were new,
I guess
and
we
then
didn't.
Grogu's 2 pip
Grogu's
was
2
new.
pip. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So let's start with the 2 pip. I like those odds. Din Djarin. Din Djarin gains 1 aim token. After Din Djarin performs an attack action, he may perform an additional attack against a different unit. Pretty good.
I love it.
Yep.
I love everything about this. It's super simple. It's really effective and interesting.
Yep.
Yeah,
Pretty fantastic.
I love it.
I there's not really, It's succinct. The wording is good. Like it's
Yep.
direct. There's no questions. It's just a good card.
Yeah.
You know.
Nice job on this one.
Yeah, you guys did great. Number one pip. This is the way. Dinjarin. Dinjarin gains 1 dodge token and relentless. Ooh, I love relentless as a keyword. It's one of my favorite keywords. It's so good.
And especially with Din's kit, right? Because
Yeah.
he's kind of like a, you know, he's got the quote unquote standard Mando bits on his profile, but he's really more like a combination of Cassian and Grievous a little
Yeah.
bit. Like he's a non-force user that wants to be in melee, even if you give him the rifle.
Yeah.
Like his pistol's okay, but it's not, you know, he doesn't have a ranged attack like Boba does.
Yeah.
But it's his melee attacks where he really shines. So like I love that this has relentless on him, because this is like an opener where you can crash into your opponent's lines basically with him, and then everything else follows from that. So
yeah, I mean, you know, yeah, there's just so many options there too, because he's got versatile on his pistol and arsenal too. So you know, you could go in and maybe hit somebody with, if you have the knife, or if you have his the vibro or the Beskar spear, and
or even the
then
rifle.
and then shoot somebody out of it. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like you're putting a lot of, yeah, it's just so good.
Yeah.
It's so good.
Yeah, I love how this really synergizes with his kit in a way that is extremely simple to
Yeah.
actually do.
I have to
That's a
say,
cool effect.
yeah.
Yeah.
Out of everything we've seen so far, he's probably the most like complete package, that like everything just is like, oh yeah, this is all good.
The only issue I have with, I love everything about Din except for the Amban.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You wanted to do the hand thing?
Yeah, sure. I love that. 2-pip, the hand thing, Grogu. No units basically is who gets selected for this. It's just a dash. This card cannot be selected during the command phase. When a friendly unit at range 1 and in line of sight of Grogu is declared as a defender against a ranged attack, you may discard this card from your hand. If you do, the defending unit gains 2 dodge tokens and gains deflect during this attack. Yeah. All right.
This is another, I mean,
Yeah.
this is a lot of text, but actually there's really not that much that's confusing about how to do
No.
this. It's basically on demand
Yeah.
dodge tokens and deflect when a friendly unit's a defender.
Yep.
And it's, you know, it is when they're declared as a defender. So this is going to follow like the normal sequence of the attack steps and all that.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, it's an example of a really cool effect that just makes sense though. Like it's super
Right.
unique and you're not gonna see anywhere else in the game, but you don't have to have much of an understanding of the rules to get how this works.
Yep, absolutely. Love this one too. All right. The Beskar spear. Let's talk about the Beskar spear.
Yeah. So it is melee. It is 2 red and a black. You gain duelist. Okay, so yeah, that's it, right? You gain duelist.
Yeah, it's dice and you gain duelist.
Yep.
Which is a good keyword.
Yeah. It's also worth noting that Din Djarin has independent aim and dodge. So if he doesn't have an order, you're getting both that pierce immunity and pierce with that.
Yep.
That
And his
weapon.
command cards give him green tokens. So
A lot. Yeah.
Yep.
And it is tactical.
Yeah. My only thing with this is, yes, duelist is a good keyword, particularly like if you're in melee with like a force user. But I don't think you want him there anyway. And also like none of these things is immobilized too.
Yeah.
Which is possibly the single best keyword to put on a melee weapon in existence.
And you're also paying a 5-point premium to not have immobilized too.
I mean, there are other weapons that have immobilize on them, but like the difference between immobilize 1, you know, on something like a magnet whip or whatever, and immobilize 2 on the rifle is huge. Yeah. Because this prevents most units from withdrawing. Yeah, but his card or his gloves are exhaust.
Yeah.
So yeah, Cad Bane is the only other one that has an immobilized weapon that's more than 1. But yeah, the immobilize 2 prevents most units from withdrawing from you in melee. So like, I don't know. The spear is cool. I have a really hard time seeing why you would ever take it over the rifle. even if you just set aside the the ranged effect attack, whatever you want to, it's not an attack, we should never call it an attack, the ranged effect on the rifle, even if you completely set that aside, I think you still want the rifle like 95% of the time.
Especially at the points cost, right? Like if they're the same cost, it feels maybe more like a trade-off if you're getting Pierce and better dice versus the better keyword and the special ability. But when it's more expensive, I think you could even make the spear 8 points, and I still don't know if I would take it over the rifle. So at 15, it's to me it seems like a no-brainer. You want that Amban rifle.
Should we talk about all the things that you can do with specifically the ranged effect part of the rifle by virtue of it not being an attack? Because I don't know that we've gone through the exhaustive list.
Should I read the
previously.
effect again to remind people?
Please do, yeah.
So it's a double action, 2 arrows, which essentially means it's going to take your whole turn to do this, and you can't be suppressed if you're going to do this. It says 2 arrows. If you are not engaged, perform a speed 1 move, then choose an enemy unit in line of sight. Roll 1 red attack dice. If you get a hit or a crit result, the chosen unit suffers 1 wound and gains 1 suppression token. So essentially you roll a red dice for anything you could see. It gets an auto wound and a suppression. It's kind of built to mimic an attack that gets through Pierce immunity. But with this list, a key thing is this isn't an attack. So all you need is to be able to see the unit. And yeah, Kyle, do you want to go through I think this is maybe, I don't even know if it's exhaustive. We tried to compile all the ideas because there's definitely other edge cases, but.
Yeah, so you can target units that are in melee. You can target units that are small. So like if all you can see is another Grogu or another Dio, ID10, you can still target them even though you wouldn't normally be able to. Similar, you can target units that have inconspicuous or incognito. You can target units at unlimited range through limited visibility. Same with Maul's 2-pip.
Yeah.
You can target units in closed transports.
Yep.
You can actually use this while you're in melee because of the location of the words about being in melee, because it's at the beginning before the speed 1 move, and then after that there's no prohibition on being in melee. So like if you're not in melee, you can make the speed 1 move into melee with Din, and then target something else out of melee.
So quick question, could you trigger his relentless card off of this?
No, because it's a move, not a move action.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, steady is what would trigger off of it, not relentless.
No, steady wouldn't either because it's not a move action.
It's same wording. Yeah.
Oh, it's a speed 1. Right. It's not,
it's just a speed 1 move.
Yeah.
You can remove models that cannot be seen. Normal, if you're shooting just like a normal multi-man trooper unit, this is probably going to be a benefit to the defender. But in the specific instance that you're shooting like a strike team, the wound allocation rules about only being able to remove models that you can see applies only to when something is defending it against an attack, and this is not that. So when you shoot a strike team with this, your opponent will have to remove the non-leader model, which is usually the one that's hidden behind cover. So this is a way to basically like snipe the hidden strike team model, leaving the other one exposed.
So for people who don't know, when you run strike teams, the sniper is your leader, is your unit leader. So what we generally do is we hide the other unit behind line of sight coverage so that when you do attack that unit, you generally kill the unit leader, and then he just spawns behind line of sight blocking cover when he dies. So in this case, though, because of the way this is worded, that you just apply that wound to the non-leader unit because he can't die if both are eligible for the wound.
Yeah, and that's generally referred to as corner peeking, which is like a key component of what makes the 2 model strike team like actually survivable. Otherwise they would just kind of instantly die to like bombards or any other variety of unlimited / long range attacks, because it's only 2 models. But in this case,
like 2 turns of life. right? You get the one shot and then you move out and get shot again. So you get minimum 2 turns of being alive, even if you're shot at.
Right. But in
But
this
this
case,
gets around that.
you can pick up the hidden model,
Yeah.
and then pick up the other one with Iden or something. Just you know, I don't know. I guess one could debate whether that is actually like an effective use of time or not. I personally think it is, because
I think it is. Yeah.
Legion
Yeah.
is all about building tempo and incremental advantage, and eliminating any activation, strike team or otherwise, is huge for that. And if you can do that in a way that your opponent really can't respond to, like this combo is very close to doing, that's even better. I mean, one of the things I love most about running Iden just by herself is like you can often set up a pulse scan shot on if you can see both models in the strike team, because she has infiltrate, and then eliminate a strike team early. But that requires like infiltrating so that you can see both models, and it requires playing her 1-pip card, and this requires nothing more than just giving Din an ambit.
Yeah.
What else did we I mean, there's the obvious, like you can't use defensive keywords, but that feels like kind of an intended part of this effect. So I don't know
Yeah.
that that's fair to list on here as something that's it's like this would all be avoidable if this was just worded, if this was just structured like a ranged attack. Like all you got to do, you could keep the double action thing, you could keep the speed 1 move, just have the double action thing and be like, make a speed 1 move. You don't even have to put the thing in there about not being in melee, because you can't make a speed 1 move if you're not in melee.
Right.
Do we mention the Grogu thing? Because I think we talked about you can
Oh, we
target
did
small
not.
units.
Yes, we
But
did
I
not
think the
mention
most
Grogu thing.
egregious out of all of this is that line of sight is from any model in your unit to the other one.
Yep.
That is including Mr. Grogu. So you can have Din Djarin behind a line of sight blocky piece of terrain with a small Grogu on the side who can't be targeted, and Grogu can be shooting people with the Amban. Yeah. The only thing that can stop this is your own Din Djarin with an Amban, because it can target small. So unless you have your own Din Djarin with an Amban, you have no way of stopping Grogu from just sitting there shooting your things while you have no opportunity for return fire.
Yeah, and again, this is because this is not an attack. Like normally, this doesn't work with Iden, because during the attack sequence, minis cannot contribute weapons to an attack pool if they can't see the target. So like, Iden can't contribute her sniper rifle to an attack pool if she can't see the target, even if Theo can see it. But this is an ability used by the unit, and Grogu is part of the unit. So yeah, Grogu can fire the Amban.
Yeah, you can fire the Amban out. Like you said, if you made this just an attack, like if the card was some fancy new card that had a weapon profile on the top and bottom, so you could have the melee, or even just make it a flip card that you can flip freely, give it some, text at the top that says you can flip this card at any time. All these things we just said, I think would be solved.
Yeah, and it's not that like, once you realize that it's not an attack and it is an effect, like if you know the rules well enough, these are all things that you could reasonably work out. But this is not intuitive for new players at all. And I think even like if you want to just maintain the structure of this card, you still do the double action thing, you still do the speed 1 move, but then you just say like make a ranged attack with the following weapon. It has 1 red dice on it, and it has a keyword, something like disintegrate. If you hit with this weapon, proceed directly to the assigned wound step, assign a wound to the defender. Boom, stop, done. Like,
and give it like unwieldy. You can't spend aims on this card. You can't spend aims like
or convert surges. Yeah, if you want to even maintain that part. But like you still ignore defensive keywords because you're skipping all the steps in the attack sequence where you'd be able to use them. You still ignore things like cover because again, you're if you go straight from roll attack dice to wound, like you're skipping all the steps where you'd be able to use cover, dodge, guardian, whatever. It does the exact same thing. It just does it in a way that like doesn't unintuitively break all the rules of what you feel like should be a ranged attack.
I think too, the real maybe you guys said this and I missed it, sorry, but like because I was just been thinking about this, I think to me the worst part about this is the fact that he has bounty in both factions, because you have something with 1 wound and he's just gonna like without any like you can't block it, you can't like there's nothing, you're gonna if he can get in position, then there's a solid chance he'll defeat that unit and claim the victory point, and there's not a thing you can do about it.
The tough part for me is against force users because you can shoot into melee with this effect. Because typically, right, a force user at 1 health can still have a lot of legs,
Yeah.
right? You can give them dodge tokens. You can do all sorts of shenanigans to keep them healthy. Yeah, in this case, it doesn't matter what you do with your force user. If Din Djarin can see that force user, he's got an 87% chance of just picking them up off the table if they have a 1 health left.
It's lower because you don't convert the surges. It's 75.
Oh, you don't convert surges. Yeah. Okay, 75.
But still, and it's not even about doing the last wound to a force user. Like, once a force user has taken roughly 3 wounds for the most part, they're kind of like right in that possibly just getting punched to death by randos danger zone, and you have to really like play them even more carefully than you would be otherwise.
Yeah.
So like you spend the first 2 turns plinking a force user, do 2 wounds to him with Din, do 1 wound to him with something else, and like suddenly your opponent's force user has to basically hide, lest they get punched to death by stormtroopers. So yeah, I mean, like balance of the effect aside, it just like it could have been worded. It would have been so easy to just word this in a way that was cleaner and didn't break so many rules.
Yeah, and the way you just had to think about it is anyone that could receive a token or be seen, basically anyone who can be seen as per rules can be hit by this.
Yeah, think of it like an unlimited range force choke, basically, with a line of sight requirement.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's the best way to think about it. Like see a unit, roll a dice, assign them a wound token, and that's going to be the quickest way to think about how this interacts with the rules, basically, or doesn't interact with the rules.
Yeah, it's wild.
I think besides that block of text though, I do like Din. That rule in particular, very clunky, but I think Din as a unit, as in a character, seems really cool.
Yeah, and
right, like with Boba, like he's similar to Boba in some ways, but I don't know if he feels better than Boba, and that for me was a good gauging mark because I've been really enjoying Boba, and I think he's quite good right now. And I was trying to think, could I just replace Boba flat out with Din in some armies? I don't think it's yes, which leads me to think,
very different.
he has some good things, but he's not. I don't think he's as broken as some people are saying. I think his rules are broken, but yeah,
I think he's much more like functionally as like the role that he plays in your army. I think he's much more like a possibly cheaper, more effective Grievous, but at the same, like his toolkit is essentially the same, right? He's not a force user. He's a fast melee blender, basically. No,
I
he
actually
has
see there's no way of getting out of melee, but besides killing things, which is a big part for those kinds of units.
Correct. Now he does have, he does have the reverse, right? He's got an immobilized 2 weapon in melee, which is great for that toolkit. He's got a lot of cards that are very good at killing normal trooper units. I still think you're going to not want him in melee with specialized melee units, whether those are force users or like Wookiees or Magna Guard or something. But he's going to be super good at just like blenderizing normal like rando trooper units.
Yeah, he kind of like reminds me a lot of I think you made a mention this too, Cassian, right? Like where you just have these different modes where you're like, oh, I'm just gonna be in sniper mode this whole game, or okay, yeah, you want to get up close, fine, I'll teach you something while we're up close too, and like I was just thinking about like I have this Cassian K2 list that I've been playing. I'm like, God, could you imagine Din in this list? And I would have basically effectively 5 snipers, and just like because I have 3 regular snipers plus Cassian plus Din, and just like on stuff like sabotage or something like that, you just sit back and you just like just shooting things at range 5 and above, right? Like just like taking everything out before it can even like start coming up the battlefield. I was just like, oh man, that's crazy.
Yeah, I had similar thoughts with Iden Din, but the thing that keeps me going back to Boba is that whipcord, because I would just get nervous about like a burst of speed Maul or Vader or something getting my lines, because Whipcord is just so good. Like
Yeah.
it's, I think uniquely why boba item works so well too is because often lists nowadays a burst of speed and characters like Vader and Maul who are really good, you kind of need force push to deal with them, or your own force user, or just a bunch of Wookiees to just beat them into the ground, or Magna Guards. But Boba's Whipcord kind of uniquely gives you that pseudo effect of being able to manage a force user, and it makes Boba also a, like, I think he's almost like decent diving into melee against units too, because you can dive in, kick something, shoot something, then Whipcord out. So I really enjoy that flexibility of Whipcord, which I think is Din hits real hard and is real safe, but if a force user gets in your lines, not having Whipcord is gonna hurt.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, on the rebel side, you could put Sabine in, with her electro grappling line and have a similar fit her and Din did, and then like some Mando support unit. Oh my god, like that would be
Yeah, I think if you have two melee, because then like Din and Sabine could also just double team the force user, and even though neither one is amazing 1-to-1, 10 black dice between the two of them on a pretty much permanently immobilized force user, I think they're going to come out on top.
Yeah, that's the old like I'm not trapped in here with you, you're trapped in here with me kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you still don't want Din in melee with force users, even if he's throwing immobilized tokens on him.
Yeah.
All right, you guys got any final thoughts?
Do we need any? Oh, it was a great episode.
Yeah,
Real
it
roller
was-
coaster of emotions.
Yeah.
I'm in a glass
Highs
case
and
of
lows.
emotion. Yeah,
Highs and lows, some new
email
rules we
Asmodee,
don't know.
I think if you got a Battle Force box or you're generally concerned about anything, email
Yeah.
Asmodee.
And listen,
we-
well, like we said, we're passionate about this. I understand some of you aren't going to like that whole section, and that's okay. But we got to do something about it at some point, and we need to come together as a community. Otherwise, it's just never. They're just going to keep doing things like this and think it's okay. And it's just because we're passionate about the game, about the community, about everything.
And the goal isn't to spread negativity or anything. It's just like we said, we really care about this, and some of these things are getting worse, so it's time to speak up, right?
It's moving in the wrong direction.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we are the Notorious Scoundrels. I'm Kyle.
I'm Jay. You're not Jay. I'm Jay.
I think I'm also Jay. I'm Lucas.
Stay fresh, cheese bags.
This has been a Fifth Trooper production.